Hello, everybody. It's good to be with you. So today I want to talk about the complainers, and you'll recognize the complainers, I hope, because you've certainly got at least one. And what you're going to notice that everybody else has got at least one too. And there's really no exception to that I'm aware of. There may be somebody who has reached some sort of non-dual peak that I'm not familiar with. That certainly is possible. Who has absolutely no complaints about anything at any time. But I ain't there yet, and I wonder if you are. I kind of doubt it, frankly. If you're watching this video, the odds even go down further. So let's just assume that we've all got a complainer, and now let me tell you what the hell I mean by that. So the complainer is sort of like it's sort of like the little mouse in your head, right? The little mouse in your head, and he's always talking to you. And you know what he's saying? Man, this sucks, doesn't it? Doesn't this suck? I mean, everybody doing everything wrong, aren't they? I mean, why don't they, why aren't they? Why aren't things different? Why aren't people doing what they should be doing? And I know they should know what they're doing because I'm thinking it. And if I'm thinking it, they should be able to hear it. And they should pay attention to it too. See, the reason that we think people think about us so much, and they really don't. They don't think about as much because you know why? They're busy tending to their complainer. Because that's what the whole world is busy doing. They're tending to their complainer. The complainer is, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not rich enough. I'm not cool enough. I'm not good looking enough. I may have said that. I'm not tall enough. I'm not short enough. My boobs are not big enough. My boobs are too big. It doesn't make any difference what it is. There's 1,000,001 different complaints that we can have, about the body, about the world, about just everything, because see, everything is just going as it's going. Everything's just going as it's going. And what the complainer knows is that ain't right, is that everything should be going some other way. Now, the complainer cannot offer a suggestion as to what a perfect world would look like, but it can certainly, it is a master at spotting an imperfect one, which is what it thinks this is. Now, if it was any good at all at spotting a perfect world, it would spot this one, because this is we can say it's a perfect world. It's a little bit much, but it is as it is, and it cannot be otherwise. Isn't that another way to say perfect? That it has no opposite. This is as it is. See, perfect kind of opens the door to comparison, but in the absence of comparison, then how are things going? How's your life today if you don't compare it to the rest of all the other days of your life that you have had or think you will have, fear that you will have? So in the absence of comparison, everything's fine, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, I notice that there's some things here. There's hell, this body is falling apart, man. It's just, there's this wrong and there's that wrong. There's this wrong and there's that wrong. And hell, it's not wrong. It's right. That's the way it's supposed to be for this body. But, the doctors think it's wrong. And, I think I think it could be better, but it can't be until it is. See? And that's the way it is for Betsy. Betsy thinks it could be better, but it can't be until it is. Once it is, it will not be able to be otherwise. If it never is, who knows? This moment could be the peak of the remainder of my life, and it could be the peak of yours. What if this is as good as it's ever going to get? Then a little bit like Jack Nicholson. We laugh about that movie sometimes. What if this is as good as it gets, he says in the psychiatrist's office. And I say that here, and this is not completely unlike a psychiatrist's office in the sense that there's a bunch of nuts here, including this one, right? And we're looking for help, and we're not looking for it here, because God Almighty, this thing is You don't want it running your life. Man, it couldn't run its own. No, we're applying for outside aid. But there is no outside. It's just a manner of speaking. But what I'm saying is we're not counting on the body to deliver joy. It may not. You know, the first thing when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I think of is not, oh, joy, I'm alive again. My first thing is, oh, I want some more of that death. Please shut up, cut off the light, right? And I don't want any more of that. The complainer is the thing that just says, well, hell, I don't need to tell you who the complainer is. You already know who the complainer is, right? Because, you know, you have to know who he is. You invented him or her or it or whatever you want to call it. Let's call it it. Try to be gender neutral here. So you invented it. I mean, you didn't mean to invent it. It's not like you invented it because there's no you over there to touch, you know, to hit their magic Harry Potter wand and invent, you know, oh, I'm going to invent something. Sooner or later, I will be a wizard. They are coming for me. Yes, they are. In a white truck with butterfly nets. So the complainer seems to be part of the gear, part of the conditioning. Because I'm going to suggest that the complainer is not built from birth on. I'm saying that the complainer came about in some way, shape, or fashion. I do not understand this. I do not understand the relationship between DNA and non-duality. I do not. So I'm not going to explain that to you. But what I will tell you is that this complainer came with the unit. So you didn't make up all of it. What you've done is enlarge and embellish it. Because there's been a complaining on our planet ever since there was a planet, really. There's been, you know, even back in the, you know, the early days when there was no psychological distress or anything like that, there was still, damn it, Igor's got the big part of the bone, right? And I should have the big bone. I'm gonna knock him in the head with my little bone, take his big bone, whatever. There's always been complaining. And so we inherited all those traits. When I say we, now I'm not talking about, I'm now talking within the realm of duality. And I'm talking about these units. These units, they are the result of DNA and everything that's happened to DNA since on this planet or whatever. I mean, it's just, these are sacks of conditioning. And most of the sack got here before we did. So in that being the case, hell, we can't possibly go out to fix that conditioning. We can't even recognize most of it. Right? I mean, it's stuff, I mean, I don't think about, I do, I'm very grateful and I spend most of my time in gratitude, but I don't mean every single minute. Sometimes I'm just doing stuff and that's fine. I'm not supposed to be grateful every single minute, or I would be, but I live in gratitude, that is for sure. And so does Betsy. And yet at the same time, I noticed that I did not wake up this morning in gratitude for particulars, like I'm glad that I'm not in Ukraine, and I'm glad that I'm not starving over in Africa, and I'm glad that I am not fixing to freeze my ass off in the winter because of the Russians or anything like that. I mean, although there may be some of that here, and who knows. But what I'm just saying is that we automatically take for granted things that we shouldn't be taking for granted. Because if we didn't take things for granted, we'd be constantly humble and constantly grateful. And humility is something that this thing is just not, just not keen on displaying. It just isn't. That's the way of the unit. But that's because it still has a lie in there, which is that there's still some sense that, that it's owed this, that this world is its due, and I got about as much, as much business in my later years, living in a nice middle-class community, and having a wonderful wife and driving a nice car and having nice dogs and all of that. I didn't earn any of that. None of it. None of it. So this is not about getting our due, but somewhere inside it's like, I'm due more. It's entitlement is what it's called. And it's, I'm due more than this. And I don't have more than this, so I'm pissed off about it. Thus, I'm complaining. And if everything seems to be fine, I'll think of something. I'll think of something. Just wait. I'll think of something. Right? And my friend, his only problem was he didn't have enough money. Then he got cancer. Suddenly he told me, I remember him telling me, Fred, who gives a shit about money? I just got this cancer. I said, well, you better surrender to that cancer, better use it to surrender, because if you don't, the minute you get rid of your cancer, you're not going to have enough money again. Because he noticed that when he had cancer, he had plenty of money. He was very grateful to have that money because it helped him get rid of the cancer. But as soon as he got rid of the cancer, guess what? I don't have enough money. And that is not laughing at him. That's laughing at all of us, because we have all done it on one level or another. What I'm suggesting is that we need to look out for the complainer, because but I don't mean we need to look out here for the complainer. We need to look in here for the complainer. Because you know what all of our complaints are? All of those complaints, where are they? We say they're in here, but I mean, they're really in imagination, aren't they? Things ought not to be like this. Really? Really? Interesting. Where did you come up with a cockamamie idea like that? It should be hotter, or it should be cooler. It should be rainy, or it shouldn't be so rainy. Really, 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 really. So you got to learn to watch out for the complainer, because the complainer is known as duality. Complaint is the state of duality. So when I talk about this complaint here, I'm saying this conditioning here that hasn't woken up and never will. Awakeness itself has woken up through this body, but this sack of conditioning ain't never going to wake up. So there's things that it still harbors and all that. Boy, could I shift in this chair just a little more? I mean, must be annoying you, because I just got it. It's annoying me. So quit it. What brought you in front of a damn fool today, huh? What brought you here? Search for wisdom? My God, we're all in trouble, aren't we? That reminds me of the story that when I was doing a live thing down in Charleston, South Carolina, a few years back, and I was in a church, and I came down to the fact that I said, that it looked to me like that the world was in a whole lot of trouble, and maybe that was the reason that people were waking up. I had that kind of story going at the time. And it was so that we could wake up in time to save the planet and all that and be heroes. And I mean, I hope we do, but it'll be important. It'll count like hell, just won't matter one way or the other. It won't matter, but it will be important, absolutely important. We need to move in that direction. Anyway, and I said that I thought that the world was in a lot of trouble. And when I got through with my talk, a very pretty young woman asked me, she said, Fred, she said, do you really think that that the world is in a lot of trouble? And I said, ma'am, if this is in the front of the room, we're in a lot of trouble. I meant it and I mean it now. You know what the complainer is. So how do you stop it? You stop the complainer via inquiry. Now you can calm the mind through meditation, and I've suggested, I recommend it. I recommend it highly. I've never told anybody don't meditate. I have told many people you don't have to, but I've never told anybody not to. But you know, even but you have to if you have to. I wouldn't argue with that. But you don't have to if you don't. Turned out I was one of those who had to meditate, and you know, finally I got over that nonsense. It's not nonsense. I'm just making light of things. I'm just being funny, so to speak. You got to inquire into the complainer. Who said that? When it goes, this ain't right. According to who? What's your standard? Well, I don't have any standards. I just know that this ain't right. Oh, people are doing wrong. How do you know? Well, they're not doing what I want them to do. And right. She's not doing me the way that I want. She's doing it wrong. She's got it out for me. What if she ain't even thinking about you? What if she's just doing what she's doing and she doesn't give a shit what you're doing, but you give a shit what she's doing? See, and that's the problem, is you've got your nose in her business to keep your nose in your business. Byron Katie used to say that there's my business, your business, and God's business. And I do well when I remain in my business, and I just go out and do very poorly when I start worrying about your business or God's business, or sticking my nose in there, or trying to fix them, trying to adjust them, because I can only adjust them the way the Fred unit would see to adjust them, right? I'm operating from this tiny little keyhole looking out at the vast universe, and I'm saying, I believe I've got this thing. That's what we're all doing. Shut the complainer up, and you can only shut the complainer up with questions. You can't do it with answers. You can't tell it to shut up. You can't pray for it to shut up. Hell, I tried all that. I surely did. But it's when I started asking questions. Like, so there's a complainer here. Whose complainer is it? There's a complainer here. Is that true? Can we find it? Can we locate the complainer somewhere in the body? Can we locate the complainer in the brain? Can we say this is where the complainer's house is? The complainer is wherever you, the personal you, is. Wherever that little personal me lives, that's where the complainer lives. When you're operating as a unit, there will be a complainer. When you're operating as an individual, there will be a complainer. I'm not saying that the body doesn't operate as a unit. Hell, the body is a unit within relativity. So it's fine if it acts like a unit, given that it is one. But don't you start just going out there and going crazy. Please. Do some investigation, do some inquiry. God almighty, I got so many, I've got videos on inquiry, and I've got talks on inquiry, and I got everything on inquiry. So if you want to know more about that, by the way, so if you want to know, if you want to get out of this stuff, it just dawned on me. Betsy said, don't forget it. And when she left, and here, I'm not forgetting it, but it's the last thing I'm saying in this video. Skillful Means begins Saturday in just a few days. So it's $350. It's 3 consecutive Saturdays. First session is an awakening session. The other 2 are clarity sessions. We've had a lot of success with this, and a lot of my permanent students are now people who came in through Skillful Means. And there's a lot of people out there in the world who are awakened from, that have awakened from Skillful Means. So I invite you to attend. But if you do, don't bitch about it. Don't come to class and complain. And, just come in and with an open mind, and you might be surprised at what happened. Okay. I love you. We got to keep meeting like this. See you later. Bye-bye.